They are 0-10 to the under this season, South Sydney. The ability of Cronulla to be able to put points on the board when they get into attacking position. And the big one is the home underdog, 62% cover rate. So welcome back to the bets.com.au betting recap and preview. We're going to recap round 10 of our bets from bets.com.au and then have a look ahead to round 11. All the best tips, picks, and everything, Jez, at bets.com.au.
The best bets, tips, and previews. The best previews and the most, I don't know, maybe the most up there is the most analytical tips out there, you could say. The best at the moment, we're struggling a little bit, but such is life. Playing the long game, as we say, our favourite saying here. I don't know how long you can play the long game, but we're certainly doing it over these last couple of weeks. And but only means better things to come, though, doesn't it? Hopefully, Ryan. Better things on the horizon. Origin time will save us.
That's what we hope. Let's have a look at our tips or our picks from last weekend. So you and I had Thursday, Friday, and also Sunday, and old mate Andy had Saturday's games. So 0-3 to start, pretty rough. Do you want to speak about that game, or are we going on to Knights? Titans?
Yeah, we can touch on it real quickly. I guess why not? It was the theory there was obviously Mitchell Moses coming in and the Dolphins defense, both defenses really being pretty ordinary over the last few weeks. And I don't think there was a tipper out there that wasn't backing this game to go over. I think I said to you on Thursday morning, I'm like, that you probably should go the under because every single tipper on the internet is taking the over in this game. And it ended up being a tight match, and then it fell into the hands of the Dolphins. But it was, look, you just really thought that Mitchell Moses' kicking game was going to be superior, but we certainly have seen what's the word? Katoa really emerging as a prime half in the game. Like, obviously still young and doesn't have his game complete yet, but he certainly did a great job of pinning the Eels back in their own end. It felt like all of their kicks were just, if they didn't have a chance to do an attacking kick, they were just putting it in the corner and making the Eels work hard out, and they just didn't get the amount of attack. And you know what, when you look at the stats and break it down real quickly, it was like they were pretty even. Most of the main stats were close enough to say that it was a close battle, and it was a close battle. The game was in both teams' hands all the way to the end, but just the Dolphins took their chances. It still feels like the Eels are still struggling in attack, even with Moses. They're getting in the right field position, and I think won the amount of tackles inside 20, so they were having more, say, red zone pressure, but couldn't convert. So that's sort of where it cost them. And then but they looked so much better when they were throwing the ball around at the end. So maybe they need to go to that, especially with Lomax coming back this week. It's going to be interesting to see what effect he has on their attack and their ability to score, because they've still been struggling. Even with Moses, they don't have they don't have that flash. They're missing that flash back, that flash, center wing, and that is Lomax. So we'll see what he can create and see if things change this week.
Yes, very interesting. I had the other game, or the first game on Friday, Newcastle and Gold Coast, and I said the Titans' defense stinks, and I was correct. The Titans' defense did stink. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
But I thought Newcastle would make it 7 wins in a row at home against the Titans, where they just have dominated Gold Coast for a number of years. And it looked that way early, Jez. It looked that way early. They, in the first half, Knights 59% possession, 63% territory, almost 1,000 run meters, 17 tackles inside the Titans 20. They scored, I think, all of their tries in the first half, didn't they?
20 points. They didn't score in the second half.
Yeah, 3 tries. Sharp was looking good. I had him as a try scorer, so that was the one bet I did win. It's fantastic.
Mm.
But they just seem to clock
Tale of
off in
two
the
halves.
second. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at this, 68% of possession and 60% of territory. You look further down into their errors, 9 errors, 3 penalties conceded. It's and 2 set restarts to the Titans. One tackle in the opposition 20. They weren't even close to scoring, whereas the Titans had 23 tackles. And almost the polar opposites of amount of run meters as it was in the first half. And we spoke a little bit about this kind of. Now, I wouldn't have done it in this game, but the Canterbury game. If you have a team that has so not less ball, but so little ball in the first half, so little territory and so little possession, and you can't, watching the game, you can't put it down to anything specific. Like they're not playing shit. They've just haven't had the opportunity for some reason or another. They just haven't had the opportunity. Then my strategy is to get on that other team, get on the line at around halftime, because you're going to see so much value. And you saw that with the Doggies, because once you get the possession back, and this is something that we can look at in our stats for full game stats. You look here at possession, it's all between the majority is between 49% and 51%. There are a couple of outliers at 47 and 53, but the majority of possession, once you average it out over all the games, over the whole course of the game, it's extremely close. So if you're getting a team that is getting completely outweighed in possession in the first half of a game, it's extremely likely that they're going to have a lot more possession in the second half of the game, which would push the game average back towards the middle. And with possession comes comes run meters. With run meters comes tackles inside 20. With tackles inside 20, more often than not, you're building the pressure, you're going to score a try. And that's exactly what happened with the Titans. And Newcastle, their defense is fantastic, one of the best defenses in the league, but could not hold out the Titans, who are actually all right at scoring if they have their opportunities, especially with Jaden Campbell in the team.
That's right. Yeah, and when was it the last time the Titans held an opposition to 0 in a half? So you got to take that as well. But
Have
it's
they
just
ever done
that's
it?
purely based to it hasn't happened very often. So it's like, but looking at that, like you see straight away, like 32% possession to the Knights, like really really tough to score. You've got to make a pretty big play to get over the line. So. But like just crazy that it can shift so much, and especially for the Titans, like you said, you understand it in the Saturday game with Canterbury. Canterbury play a certain type of game, and they were just making a couple of like silly errors that really hurt them. And I think Canberra kicked a 40-20, and then Canterbury kicked the ball out on the full, like small stuff like that just hurt Canterbury. And you're like, okay, they just need to go into the locker room, and they're gonna come out and they're gonna be fine. Maybe not win the game, but I think. I saw a graphic on socials that the line was around like 18 or something, I think, wasn't it? Going into halftime. So you'd take that absolutely, because you're saying that you're going to sort of lose by maybe a try. They get one more try than what Canberra does. But you just think how the absolute weight of territory and possession in that game, you easily jump on Canterbury, but the Titans, you can't. Like you could, if you had a lazy fiver in your pocket, you might do it. If you've had six schooners in you and you're a Titans fan, you might give it a chance. But I don't think anyone in their sane mind would have been backing the Titans to win that game. But it would, maybe to cover,
and
if it was like a three or 4 try.
I think the cover is the way to go, because you have to really kind of switch off your emotion and your what your eyes have just seen in the first half, because it goes completely against all the natural betting instincts to bet on a team who's been completely outplayed in a half of footy and back them in to cover a line, but it's the value, and you look at the line and you try and kind of weigh in these things. But I think it's an interesting strategy, and for those people that can bet online during games or over the phone, then it's an interesting strategy if you can make it work.
And do it responsibly. In-game betting's the winner. All right,
Andy. Because of that, Bulldogs rough. What do you call it?
Boy.
Comeback. He lost 0 from 3 there. Also, we went 2 from 3 in the Warriors and Dragons game, and then the draw. Man, Penrith shit the bed a little bit. Could have won the game.
Yeah. I don't know. We've constantly been talking about Penrith on all the shows and all the different things that we do, and it's just when you put a line through Penrith, now they also really uncharacteristic had a double-digit lead that they let slide in the last 10 minutes of the game. So, I don't know. We don't have to go down that path, but they're in big trouble. They're in big trouble. Now, just out of the blue question, do you feel better this week that Andy went shit just like us, or do you feel for Andy?
Well, when you say just like us, he still went better than us, right? No, we get 2 from 9. What's that in percentage?
He got 2, yeah. I went 3 from 9. So.
Oh, okay. I went 1 from 3. I went 33%. You went 33%, and he was less. Yeah. Oh no, I went.
No,
I went 33% if I just count one game.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
It's been tough haul.
Let's move on from that. Let's move on from that. We can have a look at. Oh, what do I want to do? I want to do that and there. There we go.
There you go.
Hard to produce and talk and look at the same time. The
no way.
Round 11, is this the last round before we get these massive bye rounds coming in?
I
think it is. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure round 12 is where it all.
Because we're writing Origin articles. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So
here are our tips for round 11. Time to make up some ground. I'm slightly ahead after picking. Who did I pick? I think I picked the Waz, and you picked St. George last week. And that was the one that broke us or separated us. No, I picked the Bulldogs. You picked the Raiders. And that was the one you said, I'll just do it to be different. And it hurt you. But now we are.
That's why I picked everything the same this week.
Yeah, so we won't see the difference between us change, but hopefully our numbers will increase. We're going Parramatta, Bulldogs, New Zealand, North Queensland, Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra, and Souths. Which game was the hardest one for you to pick here?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple really. I think I struggled a lot with the Tigers and Souths game. I think that's difficult. I think we talked a little bit offline before last weekend, had the Tigers obviously to win that game, but after their absolute shellacking by Melbourne and Latrell just being a game changer, especially at the end. Obviously with that, one of the best field goals you'll ever see in your life in horrible conditions. But so that was tough because you could also see now the Tigers just sorting their shit out and South shitting the bed and South losing that game, even though they beat Brisbane. But you've got to ride momentum and you've got to ride who South are when Latrell's in the team, even though they don't win pretty. It's their record don't know. I want to try and find it, but their record with Latrell this year must be pretty good because he played the start of the season when they were winning, and then he had a bit of injury or suspension. I recall, and then they fell off the wagon, and now he's back. Like he just seems to find a way to help his team win. Like I think he also like disappeared like for periods of that game where you're just like, okay, Latrell wasn't really doing much, but then when they needed something, he was there, and obviously dug him out and got him a crazy victory over Brisbane. They're also a team that you're just like, I don't know, watch St George beat Brisbane this week or what? I don't know.
Some quick stats
might be a bit much
to hit up with the Rabbitohs. They have won 4 of the last 5 versus the Tigers. They are 0-10 to the under this season, South Sydney. Is that right? Must be. If the spitting it out to us.
Yeah, because they haven't been scoring. They haven't been scoring. They've been playing really low games.
70% of their results have been decided by 1 to 12 margins. So with that, you could maybe predict this game to be a little bit low scoring and a tight contest, which I think maybe is in favour of West Tigers. But if they're in a tight matchup, they have some pretty dynamic players that can just pull the rabbit out of a hat, as we've seen South Sydney able to do. But they have, they have Latrell. That's all they have. If Latrell's not going to pull it out of a hat, there's no one else in that team that's doing it. So this was, again, for me, the hardest one to pick. I had West Tigers written down, and in our predictive modelling with just the 2025 results, West Tigers are favoured to win. But in the other models, it is South, and I had to go with a bit of I have to trust Latrell and trust the eye test of West Tigers defense being disgusting over the last couple of weeks.
Is there any other games that you think could? Where do you think there could be a shock? If you were to pick one game that you could go, all right, I want to have this as my bogey game. I don't want to have it on the cards.
To be honest, it's Cronulla and Melbourne. And I don't really know why. It was just when I seen the game, I was like, Cronulla could win this. They're averaging just under 27 points per game in their last 5. They're ranked first in tackles inside 20, and the Storm allow quite a lot of tackles inside 20. And we've spoken at length about the ability of Cronulla to be able to put points on the board when they get into attacking position. But we also know that Melbourne's goal line defense isn't fantastic. They have leaked a fair bit of points to teams throughout the year. Just look at the games they've lost against St George, and who else they lose to? Was it the Tigers? Some other shit team. So, and Cronulla, we say they're one of the top teams in the league, but they're also pretty shit in terms of scoring in their creativity and attack. And it's the type of situation where you see all of a sudden Cronulla, just have this matchup where Trindle is able to do something, or Jesse Ramey in his one-on-one against his opposition centre and just bowls him over for a couple of tries. It's that kind of dynamic thing that I can just see happening. But I've picked Melbourne, obviously, but that's the one I'd throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, I remember that game from last year. I was just looking it up. Cronulla actually beat Melbourne at Amy Park 25-18. I remember that game where it was like I sort of jumped on the Cronulla train a little bit there for a while after watching that game, because they were just so powerful through the middle and they were playing that almost like the New South Wales Blues style of play, where they're just so quick through their forwards and just playing sort of like touch football through the middle during big patches of their sets of 6, where they're just rolling the ball forward, quick play the ball, move forward, quick play the balls, and just pushing the ball down the field. And that's what won them that game. So and like you said with Melbourne, like Melbourne aren't as good when they're away from home either. They've won most of the majority of their games this year at Amy Park. They're much better in attack at Amy Park. So I think you're right there. That could be an absolute bogey, especially after putting up such a big score. You can just all of a sudden see them falling flat on their face. But they do get Harry Grant back, which I think helps them just with a little bit of organisation and getting their forwards around. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one.
On that 20 metre, so a couple of stats to throw out. Cronulla first in run meters, first in tackles inside 20. They average 38.6 tackles inside their opposition red zone per game. Now they score, we call this the efficiency inside 20, but it's, you take it out what you want. They score for every 10.7 tackles they have inside 20. Melbourne allow the same amount. So a try every 10.8, and they allow 31 tackles per game inside. So just on the numbers themselves, you can say Cronulla are almost automatically going to score 3 tries. That's their average because they're going to get 30 tackles inside and they score every 10 tackles. So then it's where does the rest of the game play out in terms of field position, territory, possession? Cronulla, they're third in possession. They have a 52% possession rate, so they're good with the ball. Melbourne, 51, so they're also not bad at holding onto the ball. But we spoke about this last week. They have a tendency to hand the ball over in bad spots. They give up the opposition, give the ball to the opposition in favourable spots on the field. So,
yeah, and that's definitely going to play into the way Cronulla play and what they need to win. You could say they need the ball in good positions because they need to build up those, attacking plays inside 20 for them to score points. So, interesting to see how that one plays out.
This North Queensland Manly game. Do you see Manly getting any sort of momentum back? They've lost a fair few games in a row, even at their fortress where, we've spoke about it. They were the best home team over the past 6 years of the NRL. They were winning at like 64% at home, and now they've dropped a couple at Four Pines Park, and now they're heading up to North Queensland.
Their last 3. They've lost their last 3 at 4 Pines. 2 of them were without Tom Trbojevic. So that was why we thought Tom Trbojevic was going to come in and he was going to be the difference when playing at Brookie, but couldn't do it. The Sharks just hammered them. Didn't really feel like Manly were in with a shot there. So it really feels like they've just fallen off the wagon since, obviously Turbo got injured and then all the Cherry Evans business. Maybe there is something internal going on at that club that it just has them a little bit less committed or, not in focus as much as they were at the start of the season before all the drama. Can speculate as much.
And now they have a pretty big spate of away games in front of them, considering how much they've played at home. They're 1 and 2 away so far this season, but they finished last year in the regular season and went 3 of 5 away from home. So they're not terrible away from home recently, but the just the way they've been playing, doesn't look like they're even close to winning.
No, just compared to how they were at the start of the year, you were like, shit, they would look so dangerous.
Yeah.
And you had Turbo just on both sides of the field, being the provider. Luke Brooks was kicking well. Cherry Evans was kicking well. They just looked so dangerous. And then it just, I don't know, they just gone flat. So it could just be a wave of form and all of a sudden you can see them doing that again and going on a big run. But hard to back them when they've lost 3 games at home and then are going to be on the road. They did beat North Queensland last year by 1 point in North Queensland. So, but North Queensland had beaten them twice before that at Brookie. And then this year, Manly won 42-12 against North Queensland earlier in the year.
All right.
So, But that was when Manly were hot, and that was when North Queensland started the year like 0-4, I think.
Yeah.
So
bad difference.
They're a very, very different team now. Both are different teams, so different cross trajectories now.
All right, before we get into any more games, let me throw some season stats at you. The 1 to 12 margin, 51% of games, which means the 13 plus is 49%
Crazy.
of games. Here
Good
is
math.
one I think we should maybe get on. Only 44% of games have gone over the game total this year, and we saw a lot of the games last week were unders, right? So just off the top of my head, I know Ryan Pappenhausen outscored every other single team by himself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, so there was quite a few unders. So I think an overs play on games that you feel that could be over. I think you play the over if you have some sort of inkling that way.
Just like on that though, before you go further, like the thing is the numbers are pretty high. Like there's only the lowest game total is 44.5, and that's the Roosters Canterbury game. Otherwise, everything's pushing up closer to 50, 45.5 for West Tigers and South Sydney. So I remember just like straight off the top of my head, we were always the 42.5 was always seemed to be the mark, isn't it? One of the key numbers when we're looking at game totals. It's sort of how I rate. Definitely. Okay, is a game. I think it might be the most common. 42 points might have been the most common game total. So it's interesting that there is so many games. Raiders Gold Coast 49.5, Brisbane St George 50, North Queensland Manly 50.
While you're doing that, we can just compare them to the model. The Knights Para game we have as a almost a lock for the under, but Canterbury Roosters we would pick an over there. North Queensland Manly we would pick an over there. It's only just, but the model's over. Cronulla Melbourne another over.
But can you pick the Manly? Yeah, it's hard to pick the Manly Canberra only scoring so poorly at home last week. It's hard to go, okay, they're going to go to North Queensland and put up points.
Yeah, but it could turn out to be 32 to 20. Or they're still scoring at least 18 points. Could be a 34 to 18, and you're going over the total, which is not not difficult for the Cowboys to put 34 points at home. No. So there's definitely some overs plays there. As I said, Cronulla and Melbourne as well. You're getting almost a converted try compared to the model, and even the same for Raiders and Titans. So yeah, I'm on the overs this week, and if it doesn't work out, then you double down next week.
Ooh. When no one can play defense because all the Origin stars are out. Is that the theory? We'll have to get some stats for next week of how those games go.
Home team winning at a 57% rate. The favourites, 56%. The favourites are actually winning 13 plus at a 30% rate. So 3 more games have won. The favourites won by 13 plus, and they've won 1 to 12. The underdogs, when they're winning at 1 to 12. Now, here is some very interesting numbers. The underdogs are covering the line at a almost 57% rate. So underdogs covering the line 56.8, so almost 57%. And the big one is the home underdog, 62% cover rate. So 20 of 32 games, the sample sizes are there. Last week, it was 3 of 4 teams that were home underdogs covered the line. So if you're looking
what did we back this week? Home favourites.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to follow that trend this week, you're going to go for the Dolphins, the Sharks, and the Tigers to cover. Then
The Dolphins, Sharks, Tigers, and they're all. There's not even a try in it. In any of those games, nobody is the underdog by more than 3.5 points.
no. So the Dolphins and Tigers only 1.5. So that's a tough one. But Cronulla, that could again play into the. We felt a little bit about
2 points.
Cronulla.
Who am I? Am I writing that? No, that's Andy.
Andy's
See what
game.
he does. Good.
So some very, very interesting
Better him than us.
there. Even the away underdogs hitting at 53% cover rate. So, but 62.5 is much funner.
Yeah, if you were just backing that, you're up.
Yeah.
If you were backing that the whole year, you should be up.
Yep.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, 190, 60%, you'll be up. Interesting.
Also, like we are up ROI on our anytime try scorers. We've hit 50%, have a pretty good return rate. You hit Dylan Brown was paying like 360. Eli Katoa was something or other.
280, 260,
I had
280.
Jacob Preston. I think it was also 3 something. So anytime try scorers, despite us being dreadful in how we have been tipping, we're still hitting some try scorers at a nice rate. Any other games you want to get into here?
No, I think we're good. It's going to be. I feel good about this week. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing. It feels like, but I don't think it's often that we're both on exactly the same page with our tips, and it is like it's going to be the tough calls. I think are going to be all right. Do the Brisbane cover at the 11.5 points? Do Canberra cover the 10.5 points? They're going to be the tough calls that have to be made, because even though we, hopefully should get better than 50% in just straight up money line tipping, but it's getting getting on the right side of the line this week, I think, can be difficult in those 2 games at least. So and Canterbury and Roosters. Canterbury should cover 8.5. So, but yeah, so I feel good. I feel good that we both at least picked the same, and I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. It's time for our Lady Luck, to get on our side. We're due.
Very much so. All right. Thanks for hanging around today. Let us know in the comments who you are picking in these 8 games. See if you can do better than us. Or if you want to pick the same, then we can just enjoy the spoils together. Head over to bets.com.au for all the game previews, not only for NRL, but AFL, racing, Formula 1, Imola this weekend.
Yes.
Into the Europe schedule.
Yeah, 3 weeks in a row now.
Fantastic.
They do it
Who
tough,
you got?
Formula 1. Haven't looked at it, but it's hard to go. I don't know. Just it's hard to back against Piastri at the moment, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's just on absolute fire. So,
yeah.
and Verstappen has been. I don't know. I'm waiting for them to just have an upgrade, Red Bull, and all of a sudden we're going to see Verstappen start winning races, because he's proving right now that he's the best driver in the world. Clearly, because he's driving in a much inferior car and just doing crazy things. So if they get a little bit of a boost, watch out for Max Verstappen to come at the championship late.
You heard the rumours that Horner's out after this weekend?
No.
It's already been decided, they say.
Really? How?
Yep.
Who? No.
Internet rumours.
Horner's out. Horner's out, and Verstappen's going to go to Aston Martin next year. It's also a hot rumour.
Yep.
Beginning of the end for old Red Bull, maybe.
Yes, they'll find a way. All right, mate. Thanks for today. Catch you around.
Thank you. Smell ya.